Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah ala ni'matil islami wa kafa biha ni'mah. All praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His blessing of Islam, which suffices as a blessing. So I'd like to welcome you on the 26th para. We are halfway through and we'll complete this para today. We are at Surah Fath, which means victory. So let's just begin with this surah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. لقد رضي الله عن المؤمنين إذ يبايعونك تحت الشجرة فعلم ما في قلوبهم فأنزل السكينة عليهم وأثابهم فتحا قريبا. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Certainly Allah was pleased with the believers when they were swearing allegiance to you under the tree, and He knew what was in their hearts, so He sent down tranquility upon them and rewarded them with a victory near at hand. Now it is because of this ayah we use the word Raziyallahu Anhu after the companion. So when we take the name of any companion of our Prophet, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Ali, Hazrat Usman, we say Raziyallahu Anhu because of this ayah which says over here, Laqad Raziyallahu, that Allah is well pleased with the believers, and that's the thing that we always use. Now this ayat refers to the Bayt Rizwan, which was the oath taken by the companions who had accompanied our Prophet to Makkah on way to do Umrah, and as we know they were stopped at Hudaybiyah and they were prevented from doing the Umrah. Now on reaching Hudaybiyah, our Prophet had sent Hazrat Usman Raziyallahu Anhu to negotiate for the Muslims to enter into Makkah for the Umrah, but then the news came back from Makkah that Hazrat Usman had been murdered, and Muslims took an oath on the hand of our Prophet that they would die and fight. Although they had come for Umrah, they hadn't come prepared fighting, but this is the oath that they took. Now for those who took this oath, our Prophet said they are from the Ashab-e-Shajara, which means the people of the tree, and that none of them will go into hell or are destined for paradise. Hence we should really be very careful about these early companions of our Prophet and we shouldn't really have an ill feeling for any one of them, because they are all of them have been promised paradise. And many spoils that they would receive, and Allah is mighty wise. The greatest thing that Muslims got from Hudaybiyah, which is the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, was the recognition that they are an independent entity, and after that this was followed by success in Khaybar, and then lots of Mali Ghanimat and lots of fertile land. Allah had promised you many spoils that you would receive, so He gave these to you sooner and stopped the hands of the people from harming you, and He did this so that it becomes a sign for the believers and so that He guides you to the right path. So this is a ayat, and the next ayat is actually pointing to Fatah Makkah, which is going to take place soon, a few years from here. And there is another victory that has not come within your power as yet, but Allah has encompassed it, and Allah is powerful over everything. And had the disbelievers fought you, they would have certainly turned their backs, then they would have found neither a supporter nor a helper. Now this ayat actually reflects the kind of sabr and the kind of taqwa the companions had. Their sabr was so high, their passion was so high, that if they had gone into battle at that time, they would have certainly won. And kuffar really stood no chance, despite the fact that they were in their own city and they had their overwhelming power. According to the consistent practice of Allah that went on since before, and you will never find a change in Allah's consistent practice, that Allah is always, what is the practice of Allah? That He is always with His messenger, He is always with the mu'mineen. Allah did not desire war, and why is that? And because this must have been in the best interest of the believers, and for this reason there was no war. And He is the one who restrained their hands from you and your hands from them in the valley of Makkah, after He had let you prevail over them, and Allah is watchful over what you do. So Allah made Muslims victorious over kuffar in many different ways. Maybe not physically, maybe they didn't conquer Makkah on that particular day, but morally, in terms of patience, in terms of their resilience, in terms of their loyalty, in terms of their deep commitment with our Prophet, they won in every department. Because Muslims had an edge, and they had an edge over the kuffar in all these aspects. They were truly obedient to their leader. And this was also unprecedented, really unprecedented for the kuffar, that someone had been prevented from entering Kaaba, which till now was open for all. It was open for all faiths, for all mushriks would come over there. But now Muslims were prevented to enter it, and as a result they gave the sacrifice. They are those who disbelieved and prevented you from the sacred mosque and prevented the sacrificial animals that were detained from their due place, were it not for believing men and believing women, whom you did not know, that you might have trampled them, and thus a painful situation might have arisen for you without knowledge. The situation was avoided so that Allah may admit into His mercy whom He wills. If they had been separated from one another, we would surely have punished those who disbelieved from among them with a painful punishment. So Quran here gives two reasons due to which Allah did not allow the war to take place on that particular day. Firstly, there were many people in Makkah who had hid their iman, who had hid their faith. And there were some Muslims who also were financially and physically, not in a kind of a position to do hijrat. They were financially weak, physically also they were weak, they couldn't do hijrat. A war with kuffar would have led to a great loss and suffering to these Muslims who either were hiding their iman or couldn't migrate because of financial or physical reason. Also that some of these kuffars were inclined towards Islam, although they were not yet there, but here's a chance being provided to them that you still have time to think and actually convert and revert back to the religion of Islam. Now also we note the fact that fighting is prohibited in near Masjid Haram in Makkah, and a war, if Muslims had waged a war at that time, would have violated the sanctity of this place. And we see that in the next 2 years, literally without a drop of blood being shed, Makkah was conquered by the Muslims. إِذْ جَعَلَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْحَمِيَّةَ حَمِيَّةَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. And when the disbelievers developed in their hearts distorted loyalties, this hamiyat al-jahiliyyah, the word literally means distorted loyalties, the loyalties of ignorance, then Allah sent down His tranquility upon His messenger and upon the believers and made them stick to the word of piety, for they were most worthy and deserving of it. And Allah has full knowledge of everything. So the word jahiliyyah being used over here in this ayah, it means impatience. It means being over emotional, it means being too argumentative, it means being stubborn, and these are the features of jahiliyyah. And the greatest jahiliyyah is that instead of trying to improve, when man begins to feel proud of these shortcomings and begins to flout them. Please note that the purpose of Islam is to take mankind out of jahiliyyah. Islam teaches complete opposite things to what this jahiliyyah is. Islam teaches patience. Islam teaches tolerance, it teaches calmness, it teaches sensible attitude. It teaches people to understand the situation and handle every situation with wisdom. Now at the time of Hudaybiyah, Makkans displayed their jahiliyyah by preventing Muslims from entering into Makkah. And why was that? Because of their anger, because of their ego, because of their arrogance, the immaturity and rude behavior and the insult that they had shown. And this showed that kuffars of Makkah were nothing but a bunch of angry people who were trying to incite the anger among Muslims. But because of the iman of the Muslims, Allah sent down a sakina on them, as this ayat says, and this manifested in the calm behavior, in the composed behavior of Muslims, that despite being extremely upset and despite being extremely aggrieved, they did not let their feelings control their own actions, and they continued to be obedient to the messenger and did not dispute with one another. Indeed, Allah has made true to His messenger the dream shown with truth. You will definitely enter the sacred mosque, inshallah, which means if Allah wills, peacefully, with your heads shaved and your hair cut short. You shall not fear. So He knew what you did not know, and He assigned before that a victory near at hand. So now here the zikr in this ayat is of the dream of our Prophet ﷺ on the journey from Hudaybiyah. When he was returning back from Hudaybiyah to Makkah, the companions asked our Prophet ﷺ about the dream that he had seen, because of which he had decided to go for Umrah, that he's performing Umrah. So the companion asked, and because they were returning back without performing Umrah, so they asked, is this dream a false dream? Is it a wrong dream? But it could be that the interpretation of the dream was flawed, because the dream of the prophets are never wrong, it is never false. So when they asked our Prophet ﷺ about this, Prophet ﷺ said, did I really say that we would perform Umrah in this year? I mean, they did perform Umrah, but it wasn't really in that year. So in this ayat, Allah makes clear, you will definitely enter Masjid al-Haram for Umrah, and in the next year, this dream became true. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. He is the one who sent down his messenger with guidance and the religion of truth, so that he makes it prevail over all religions, and enough is Allah for being a witness. So here the word shaheed that comes over here, shaheed means a witness, one who is present, one who is a helper. All these are the meaning. The purpose of sending a messenger, the purpose of sending our Prophet ﷺ as a messenger was to make this deen dominant and to implement it and make it supreme in its full glory. That's what this ayat makes very clear, that the other deens will continue. The other deens will continue to exist, but Islam will have a leading position. Now, hence, the reason that our Prophet ﷺ has a fazilat is not because he was the last messenger. I mean, there's nothing, nothing great about being the last, but his fazilat, his real fazilat is because of the fact of his implementation of this deen and the perfection and the completion of this deen. So please remember that Islam is not just a set of rituals or a mode of worship or some dogma. It is a way of life. It is a way of life in our homes, in our mosques, in the court of law, in the market, in the way we entertain ourselves, in the way we have fun, in the way we grieve, at all times. At all times. It is Allahu Akbar, that Allah is the greatest. Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, and those who are with him are firm against the disbelievers, compassionate among themselves. You will see them going down in ruku, prostrating themselves in sajda, seeking grace from Allah and His good pleasure. Their marks on faces from the effect of sajda. This is their description in the Torah, and their description in the Injil is like a seed that sends forth its sprouts and then makes it strong. Then it grows thick and stands straight on its stems, delighting the farmer, so that he may enrage the disbelievers through them. Allah has promised forgiveness and a huge reward for those of them who believe and do good deeds. So when a person, this ayat is actually really referring on to a whole story. A person who was representing the kuffar of Makkah, he came to Hudaybiyah and he dictated the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So when our Prophet ﷺ was dictating the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, he began this agreement, and he said this agreement is between Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. So immediately this person who was representing the kuffar, he immediately objected, and he said he does not accept Muhammad as a messenger of Allah. So he had these words erased, and our Prophet ﷺ agreed. He said, okay, erase these words, and these words were erased. Now, while these words were erased on paper, it didn't make a difference, because Allah had written it in His book, and that is why in the very first part of this ayat it says Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So this is, in reference to that, it didn't make any difference. Allah had it written even in His book. So whoever now struggles, all of us who struggle to implement Islam, all that we have to do is to just follow and adopt the same methodology as was adopted by our Prophet ﷺ. Please remember, in implementation of Islam, there are no shortcuts, right? And also the fact that we can learn from this ayat is that the mu'min is not awed by kuffar. A mu'min will never have an inferiority complex. He will never consider his deen to be inferior. For a Muslim, all izzat and all honor is for the glory of Islam. Muslims with each other are tolerant, they are cooperative, and they need to have a mutual respect. So with this, we finish this ayat and begin the next ayat, which is Surah Al-Hujraat. Hujraat literally means the inner chambers. It means apartments, rooms, and we'll look at a lot of rules of right conduct and manners and etiquettes. It's all about etiquettes. This whole Surah Hujraat is all about etiquettes. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la tuqaddimu bayna yadayhi Allahi wa rasulihi wattaqullah innallaha samiun alim. O you who believe, Do not proceed ahead of Allah and His Messenger and fear Allah. Surely Allah is all hearing, all knowing. So here the authority of a Prophet ﷺ is being said, it cannot be challenged. The authority of a Prophet ﷺ cannot be rejected. Now after these ayahs, the companions were so careful. They never challenged anything. They, in fact, not just challenging his decision, they wouldn't even walk ahead of our Prophet ﷺ. When they would be in his company and they would they would not even start eating a meal before the Prophet started. So the real task, I think that's for us to understand, is that we need to follow the messenger. We cannot go ahead with them. We shouldn't go ahead with them. Even in righteousness, even in neki, one cannot become more muttaqi than the messenger. The way of our Prophet ﷺ fulfills the way he spent his life. The needs of the ruh and the body are all met. So ibadat is what we learn from the Prophet, and we cannot really invent new ways of ibadat because he knew what is the best way to please Allah. O you who believe, do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet, and do not be loud when speaking to him, as you are loud when you are speaking to one another, lest your good deeds should become void while you do not perceive. So instructions over here to lower your voice when you are in the company of the Prophet. Also when even in our daily life, when we are discussing something, or we have a dispute with someone, we have an argument with someone. So when we have an argument, obviously we shouldn't really suppress the opinion of other people, like we cannot suppress also the opinion of our Prophet ﷺ. So today raising voice against the messenger would be like disregarding his hadith, like disregarding Sahih hadith or Sahih saying of our Prophet ﷺ. This would be like tantamounting to raising voice against him. Also, this entire ceremony that we see today in our societies, in our culture, in our in our countries, and this is the ceremony of Milad. This is completely alien to Islam. Milad had never been celebrated in Islam. It was never celebrated in the life of our Prophet ﷺ. He never celebrated his birthday. It was never celebrated by any of the companions of our Prophet. This is just a bid'at. It's just a new innovation in deen, and it's taken such a vital role in our societies. Surely those who lower their voice in the presence of the Messenger of Allah are the ones whose hearts Allah has tested for piety. For them there is forgiveness and a great reward. So the inner condition of the hearts is revealed through our mannerism. If adab and izzat is in our heart, then the way we talk, the way we treat our Prophet, then that really shows how much izzat we have, how obedient we are to the way of life of our Prophet ﷺ, how much importance we give to his way of life, which is what we call sunnah. From all this becomes clear the level of our taqwa and our love for our Prophet. As for those who call you from behind the chamber, most of them do not understand. Had they remained patient until you had come to them, it would have been much better for them, and Allah is most forgiving, very merciful. So Bedouins, they were not very civilized, right? They lacked the etiquettes, and they were in the habit of standing outside the Hujra of our Prophet ﷺ, and they would from outside loudly call, "Oh Muhammad, come out for us." That's the way they would address our Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes our Prophet was resting, sometimes he was busy in something, so it would put him into great inconvenience. So I think this ayat being the etiquettes being taught to all of us, is everyone's convenience must be considered. When we go to somebody's place, we must see, is this a convenient time to go to someone's place or not? So I think that's something that we have to all understand. O you who believe, if an unreliable person brings you a report, so verify, lest you should harm a person out of ignorance and then become remorseful on what you did. So this is an etiquette being taught over here, is for protecting our household and our societies and our communities and our nations from what? From rumors. Such a big problem of our time, right? Do not act just on unconfirmed report. Do not even circulate unconfirmed report. We have this attitude of shoot first and ask question later. This is not an Islamic attitude at all. Without first verifying, taking action on just hearsay. First, see the character and the personality of the person who is conveying the news. Is he a fasiq? Is he a known fasiq? Is he untrustworthy? Is he someone who exaggerates and spreads sensation? The effect of rumor is on everything. It affects our homes, it affects our relationships, it affects our sleep, it affects the stock market, and it creates huge amount of mental disturbance and unrest from people. So before you pass on any message, before you forward any message on your WhatsApp or on your Facebook or on the Twitter, first check whether this is a confirmed message or not. Do not circulate news, just don't forward them at all. And know that among you there is the messenger of Allah. Should he obey you in many a matter, you will certainly fall into hardship. But Allah has endeared to you the faith and made it beautiful in your hearts, and made detestable to you disbelief and sin and disobedience. Such people are rightly guided. Now, if Prophet ﷺ and his companions would have taken steps on the unverified report and the false report of the Shahadat of Hazrat Usman Raziyallahu Anhu, and later on they would have discovered, oh, this was just a rumor, that would have been terrible, right? So hence the companions are being instructed over here that the Prophet is with you, hence you have immense responsibility. History is being made. Be responsible, be careful about what you report to the Prophet. Then obviously there's a word of praise for the companions also, that in their hearts is Iman, which was engraved and absorbed, and that Iman almost became part of them. As a grace from Allah and as a blessing, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. So this is a great fazl. The greatest fazl is that one recognizes what a great treasure Iman is. If two groups of believers fall in fight, seek reconciliation between them, and if one of them commits aggression against the other, fight the one that commits aggression until it comes back to Allah's command. Then if it returns, make peace between both of them with justice and act equitably. Surely Allah loves those who act equitably. So these are kind of general instructions being given for the society, for Muslims, in the sense that we must remove discord which sometimes arises between two people, two groups of Muslims, two individual Muslims, even two Muslim nations. So this ayat is also, like I said, it's applicable on groups and on communities, even at individual level if there are differences. As human beings, we are bound to differ with one another. We are different. All of us are different. We have difference of opinion. Sometimes this leads to dispute. And sometimes when these disputes are not solved, it leads to conflict. So it is our moral obligation that we as people try and resolve the disputes between Muslims. In homes where there are conflicts, it's going to affect every aspect of life. It will even affect your ibadat. Peace of mind is needed for a focused ibadat. So when you see two Muslims fighting or disputing, don't be a silent spectator. Work actively to improve the situation. All believers are but Muslims. Therefore, seek reconciliation between your two brothers and fear Allah, so that you may be blessed with mercy. Our Prophet ﷺ said that every Muslim is a brother of a Muslim. He does not do zulm on him, does not forsake him, does not insult him. And I think that's something we must all understand. For this, we need to ensure that we do not misuse speech. The power of speech. In speech is everything. When I say speech, it means our tongue, it means the media, it means all forms, electronic media, all forms of speech that are there. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minhum. O you who believe, let not a people make fun of other people. Maybe the later are better than the former, nor should any woman make fun of other women. Maybe the later women are better than the former ones. And do not find faults with one another, nor call one another with bad nicknames. Evil thing is a bad name after faith. If anyone does not repent, then such people are the wrongdoers. So this ayat is so comprehensive, so important for us. Do not discuss faults and weaknesses and flaws of other people and of nations, which people laugh at. It's like describing someone in an insulting way. Don't make fun of people. Don't insult people. Don't insult even nations. You know, we have all these jokes about Sikh and jokes about Jews and all these people, and even among our own people, between the Pathans and Mahajir, we have so many jokes. We insult our nations in such ways. So, and this would include everything. Mimicking people, making caricatures of people, making cartoons of people. Such deeds are disliked. Truly disliked in Islam. Further on, this ayat says, don't give tana, don't be sarcastic, don't taunt people, don't taunt someone. This is almost like hurting your own self. Also, don't ridicule yourself, don't deride yourself, don't degrade yourself, because you didn't create your own self. Allah has created you. You cannot degrade Allah, you cannot ridicule Allah. He is the one who created you. So do self-analysis. There's no harm in doing self-analysis in order that we improve, but don't abuse your own self. And again, also don't insult other people by putting a pet names to them and insult them. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu tanibu kathiran min az-zann inna ba'da az-zanni ism wala tajassasu wala yaghtab ba'dukum ba'da. O you who believe, avoid suspicion. Definitely some suspicions are sins, and do not spy and do not backbite one another. Does one of you like that he eats the flesh of his dead brother? You would abhor it and fear Allah. Surely Allah is the most relenting, the most merciful. Now, so here, after highlighting these three faults which we need to take out from our lives, that is making fun of people, next taunting them, and lastly giving them nicknames which are degrading. Now we have these three hidden evils. Hidden means that they are not done in public, but they are inside us, they are hidden inside us. And first of them is to be suspicious, guman. And what is guman? You start to feel someone doesn't like me, someone is bad, someone has a bad attitude towards me. The moment we start to have this suspicion about people, our attitudes towards those people will change. And that's what is being told over here. So don't pass judgment without proof or verification. Please remember, all relationships flourish because of trust. They have this saying, innocent till proved guilty. What happens in our homes and in our societies is, the moment something is missing in our house, the shak goes on the servant. The servant has stolen it. The driver has stolen the petrol. Now, when guman becomes a guna, is when our attitude changes because of this incorrect opinion, or we take a decision based on suspicion. Suspicion is not something light. People end up killing their wives and their daughters because of suspicion. Next is, don't do tajassus. Don't read personal letters of people, personal emails of people, bugging their telephone lines, looking at their photographs. Don't do tajassus. Don't do this. And lastly, it's all about ghibat, which is equated over here. That doing ghibat of someone, which means behind his back saying things which he doesn't like behind his back, is like eating the meat of a dead brother. It's such an appalling thing, right? And we don't even think ghibat has any consequence. It has serious consequences. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min zakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. O mankind, we created you from a male and a female and made you into races and tribes so that you may identify one another. Surely the noblest of you in Allah's sight is the one who is most conscious of Allah. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. So Islam's message of equality comes completely in this ayat. The criteria of nobility is nearness to Allah. There is no caste, there is no creed in Islam. All created by Allah. We have all the same lineage. We have a common father. We have a common creator. We have a common parents. We are equal in all respects. Equal, created from the same material, right? And that's what this ayat is telling us. The desert Arabs say, we believe. Say, you do not believe. Instead, you should say, we have surrendered, and faith has not yet entered your hearts. And if you obey Allah and His Messenger, He will not diminish anything from your deeds. Surely Allah is most forgiving, very merciful. Three stages of moving in Islam, three stages or three states of Islam. First is reciting the kalma, which is the state of Islam. we're reciting the kalma, and going through all the rituals, the 5 pillars of Islam. And then is iman. Iman is something higher than Islam. It means faith entering inside the heart. And then the third stage is the stage of Hassan, which is doing everything beautifully and doing it beautifully in order to please Allah. Believers, in fact, are only those who believe in Allah and His Messenger, and then they do not doubt and struggle with their wealth and their lives in Allah's ways. Those are the truthful. So firstly, believers, iman is on Allah, a strong faith, His Messenger. And next, do not fall in doubt, because shak corrodes. Shak corrodes the iman that we have. Then constantly struggle, and this struggle is in terms of earning halal. This too is a jihad, earning halal income. Struggle with your own self, with your time, with your talent, your ability, your speech, in order to glorify Islam, in order to glorify Allah. Look at your own potential. Whatever you are best at, whatever you can do best, use that, use your abilities and whatever best you can do for the cause of this deen. Say, would you appraise Allah of your religion while Allah knows all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, and Allah is all knowing about everything. So some of these desert Arabs, the Bedouins, would come and make tall claims about that they have become Muslims and about their faith. Here it's being said, if you came into Islam, you came for the sake of Allah, then Allah knows. Allah is a witness. He knows exactly what is there in your hearts. They oblige you that they have accepted Islam. Say, deem not your Islam as a favor upon me. Rather, Allah has conferred a favor upon you for His having guided you to faith, if you are truthful. So what this ayat is saying is, it's no favor. You're not doing a favor on our Prophet ﷺ if you're following Islam. Quran makes it very clear that if you accept it, you did it for your own good. It's not an ihsan that you are doing on anyone. Actually, it is Allah's ihsan that He has accepted us for His deen. Surely Allah knows the unseen of the heavens and the earth, and Allah keeps in sight whatever you do. Now we're going to start with Surah Qaaf. This surah was very dear to our Prophet ﷺ, and he would recite it particularly at the Namaz-e-Eid. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Qaaf wal Quran al-Majid. Qaaf, by the glorious Quran. So here we see one huruf-e-muqatta'at that's coming, and there are 3 surahs which have one huruf-e-muqatta'at. The Noon, Swad and Qaaf. Qaaf is what we are doing now. Now here, wal Quran, this wow that is there is what you call waw-e-qasmiya. Allah is swearing by the honorable Quran. It's a majestic book. It's a beneficial book. It's a book of hikmat. It's a book of great azmat. The best friend for the believers is this book of Quran, because it is a book which is full of hikmat and wisdom, full of wisdom. It gives the best advice. Whenever we are in difficulty, whenever we are confused, if we come to Quran, it will always guide us. It will always guide us to what is right. So spend some time with this book. Spend some time and keep in mind what this book likes and what this book dislikes. That's so important, that we adopt what this book likes and dislikes. But they wonder that a warner has come to you from among themselves. So the disbelievers said, this is something strange. That people are expressing surprise and ignorance that Allah has sent down a human being as a messenger to warn people. Please remember, Makkans were not against the messenger, because the messenger, our prophet, was from them, but they were against the message. They couldn't really understand this message of Tawheed. On the other hand, the Jews, they were not against the message, because their message was very similar to what Islam's message was, but they were against the messenger. It is when we die and become dust that that would be a far return. This pinched people, this disturbed people, how can we be raised again? People want that their deeds should be buried with their bodies. If people accept that they will be raised on the day of judgment, this will change the pattern of their lives. Hence, the attitude these people have is to deny the arrival of this day. We know very well how much of them is diminished by the earth, and with us is a preserved book. So Allah is well aware where the particles of our bodies of people are. It's not difficult for Him to collect them together. Rather, they rejected the truth when it came to them, So they are in a confused state. So people deny the truth, and this is the definition of kufr, recognizing the truth and then rejecting it. Did they not then look at the sky above them, how we have built it and beautified it, and it has no cracks? As for the earth, we have spread it out, cast on it firm hills, and we caused to grow therein every kind of delightful thing, as a source of vision and a reminder to every slave who turns frequently. Look at this magnificent creation. Anyone who has slight willingness will accept the Creator. Just by observing the universe, just by observing how complex this life is. And we send down blessed water from the sky and cause to grow with it gardens and grains of harvest. How much barakat this rain brings whenever it falls, whenever rain falls, how much barakat is there. And towering date palms that have clustered, piled upon one another. So look at the food cycle, the sustenance Allah has created for man is so delightful, so appealing. You know, the smell, the feel, the touch, the taste, everything is so appealing and so attractive. As a provision for the slaves, and we gave life with it to the dead land, and thus will be the coming out. When Allah wants the seed which is hidden inside the earth to rise up, He sends the rain on it. Similarly, when Allah wants dead people to come from their graves, to rise from the grave, they too will rise from the grave when Allah wants that to happen. Before them rejected the people of Nuh and the people of Ras and Samud, and Ad and Pharaoh and the brother of Lut, and the dwellers of Aika, and the people of Tuba. Each one of them rejected the messenger, so my threat came to pass. 6 nations described over here, they were destroyed. Near Allah, none of them had any significance or any importance, no matter how rich and how powerful they were. It is then that we were worn out by first creation? No, but they are still in confusion about the new creation. So now from creation creations in the universe to history, we have now moved from there. History is being presented as a sign to show people, it's not difficult for Allah to recreate. Indeed, we have created man and we know what his self insinuates to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein. When the two receivers receive, seated on the right and on the left. So this ayat describes the angels on the right and on the left side, the Karaman Katibin, the honorable writers, and their duties are being highlighted now in the subsequent verses. Not a word is uttered by one, but there is a watcher near him, ready to record. Every word that we are saying is being noted down by them, by this Karaman Katibin. They are ever alert. Every word, every deed, they are all recorded. We are making our own Amal Nama. And this Amal Nama, we are dictating it ourselves. So be careful, choose your words carefully, choose your deeds very carefully. The days of death has come with truth. That is what you try to escape. So man tries to run away even from the thought of death. We go to these graveyards, and we often do that, to bury our near and dear ones, yet we come back thinking that death is not for us, it's for someone else, not for us. And the horn will be blown, that will be the day of threat. So Israfil will blow the trumpet, and the day of resurrection will begin. Every soul shall come with it a pusher and a witness. Certainly you were heedless of this, and now we have removed your covering from you, so your sight today is sharp. Majority of mankind is in the covering of ghaflat, of ignorance. Ignorance is covering people till this veil is removed on this day. And his companions will say, this is what is ready with me. Every man has 2 angels as a companion and 1 shaitan with him. Cast into the hell every obstinate disbeliever who used to prevent others from good behaviors, who transgressed all bounds, who cast doubts in true faith, who set up another God along with Allah, so cast him in the extreme punishment. People who have the following qualities, they are the dwellers of hell. Number 1, associate with Allah, exceeding limits, breaking boundaries of Sharia, always in doubt, and animosity towards the message and animosity towards the messenger. His companions will say, O our Rabb, I did not cause him to rebel, But he himself was in great error. So Shaitan now will offer his defense. I didn't force him. I didn't force man to do what he did. He himself was attracted to the sin and he did it himself. He will say, do not dispute in my presence. Indeed, I gave you a warning well in advance. So Allah will say, don't argue in front of me. In hell you have plenty of time to do this argument. My word shall not be changed, nor am I in the least unjust to my slaves. Allah had promised and warned that I will definitely fill hell with those who follow the shaitan. And warning was sent to the messenger, through the messengers and the books for guidance. Remind them of the day when we will say to hell, are you filled up? And it will say, are there some more? So Allah will give the hell the ability to speak. So when it will be asked, you still have some space? And hell will say, send me more. So ability of hell to speak at that time. And paradise will be brought close for the God-fearing, no longer distant. This is what you were promised for everyone who was oft returning vigilant. So people of paradise are those who turn to Allah, who are oft returning, who often turn to Allah, find what Allah likes and what Allah dislikes, and act, they act accordingly. Those who look for ways to get nearness to Allah. The one who feared the beneficent unseen and came with a devoted heart, enter it in peace. That is the day of eternity. They will have in it whatever they wish, and with us is more. And how many generations we have destroyed before them who were stronger than these in their grip on power, and they searched out the cities. Is there a refuge? Indeed, there is a reminder in this for him who has a heart or he gives ear, and he is a witness. Now, two ways of benefit to take benefit from the Quran is, first is with clear heart. We must have a clear heart so that the light of Quran is reflected in our hearts. And the other is to use the faculties that Allah has given us, acquire knowledge with the presence of mind. And certainly we created the heavens and the earth and all that is between them in 6 days, and no weariness ever touched us. Therefore be patient on what they say and celebrate the praise of your Rabb before the sunrise and before sunset. And in the hours of the night, glorify him after prostration. So this is a special address to our Prophet ﷺ. And listen, the day when the caller will call out from a near place, the day they will hear the cry in reality, that is the day of coming forth. So entire life, spend your life, entire life spent by being conscious of this day of Qiyamah. Surely we alone gave life and caused death, and to us is the final return. On the day when the earth will split asunder, while they will be hurrying out, that is a gathering easy for us. We know well what they say, and you are not sent as one who compels them. So exhort through the Quran the one who fears my warning. So this is the last ayat. This is a word of consolation. Last ayat of the surah, word of consolation from Allah, that Allah is sufficient. Allah is sufficient to take into account. So we'll do Surah Az-Zariyaat, and Surah Az-Zariyaat is a Makkan surah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Az-Zariyaat zarwa, by the winds that scatter. By again this word, vow that he uses, vow qasmi, Allah is taking an oath. When Allah takes an oath, it is in the sense of being a witness. فَالْحَامِلَاتُ وِقْرًا, and those that bear the burden. Bear the burden. Imagine this, millions and millions of gallons of water, weighing hundreds and thousands of tons, is lifted by the winds and carried thousands of miles, and then in a measured quantity we get this rainfall. What a phenomena that is. Try lifting a bucket of water and you'll realize how these millions of gallons, what weight they would be having. Then those that float with ease, then those who distribute by our command. Whatever you are being promised is surely true. So like we are an eyewitness to the phenomena of the wind and the power and the usefulness, these are visible, these are apparent to us. Equally, there are other events and other things and other phenomena that we do not see with our eyes, but they too are true. Like we believe in the ability and power of the winds, we also need to believe in the power and the ability and the warnings of the Quran. And indeed, recompense is sure to happen by the sky having paths. You are involved in a contradictory discussion. So like celestial bodies are following different paths, people also have different ways of life. People have different ideas, they have different words, they have different theories, some deny the hereafter. Such thoughts existed in the days of Jahiliyyah as they exist today. He is turned away from it who is averse from the truth. Accursed be the conjecturers. Who are the conjecturers? People who make guesses. People who guess about hereafter. Now, hereafter is such an important thing that, and people take it lightly and they just guess about it. Like someone is giving the most important exam of his life, and he has neither seen the past papers, nor read the syllabus, nor read any books, but he keeps reading some magazine, and he thinks and he assumes that the questions will come from the magazine that he's reading. Those who are drowned forgetful, they ask, when shall be the day of recompense? This question is a simple question. It seems like a simple question, but it's not a simple question. They are asking not for the gaining knowledge, but just to ridicule. It will be the day when they will be heated on the fire. Now the day has arrived. Taste your trial. This is what you sought to hasten. Surely the God-fearing shall be in the gardens and springs, receiving what their Rabb will give to them. Indeed, prior to this, they were good in their deeds. They did their deeds beautifully, not just as a farce to be completed, but gave a finishing touch to their deeds, beautified their deeds. They used to sleep a little in the night, spend part of their night in the ibadat. And in the hours before dawn, they used to pray for forgiveness. Despite prayers and ibadat, they were never arrogant, never proud. And in their wealth, there was a share for the one who asked and the one who is deprived. In the earth, there are signs for those who have firm faith. So look at the creation of Allah. Like one seed is sown and so many sprout from it. Similarly, what we spend in Allah's way, return given is manifold. And in your own self, so do you not then see? And in the heavens is your sustenance and all that you have been promised. So by the Rabb of the heavens and the earth, it is most surely the truth, as sure as the fact that you can speak. Has there come to you the story of the honored guest of Ibrahim, when he entered upon him and said salam? He said salam, strangers. Then he quickly turned to his household and fetched a fattened calf. So he brought it near them and said, will you not eat? So he felt some fear of them. They said, be not scared. And they gave him the good news of a knowledgeable son. So his wife came forward with a clamor and slapped her face and said, barren old woman. The last ayat of this evening, قَالُوا كَذَلِكَ قَالَ رَبُّكِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْأَلِيمُ. And they said, even so, says your Rabb, surely he is all-wise, all-knowing. So when the angels saw the surprise of the wife of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, they comforted her and said, Allah will make this happen even if you are old and barren. So barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.